Justin Jefferson spent his first million in the NFL on this. So we're going to be checking this video out by GQ Sports, and I thought this would be a pretty interesting thing because what's interesting about this, apparently he's never had any job other than being a pro NFL player, which is pretty crazy when you really think about it. But not only that, there are so many people in the NFL or just being like a pro athlete that end up losing all of their money because of how they spend their money, right? Because they haven't had this type of money before. They end up getting this crazy windfall of cash, and they're thinking like, "Oh, because I make like $1 million in a single year, I'm good because I'll make that every single year," and it's usually not the case. But I thought this would be pretty interesting to check out. So let's check it out.
NFL football player. I didn't have any jobs growing up. I was luckily the one to have two good parents to support me.
And this is a pretty cool thing, right? Because a lot of times you see NFL players, specifically for some reason, where their parents are typically divorced or they only have one single parent taking care of them. And basically, like, them getting drafted into the NFL is basically pretty much the lottery ticket for the whole family.
So I didn't have to go get a job. Go to my job every day and play football. I'll take that every day.
That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see someone like super into their job, which is, the NFL.
What's up, everybody? This is Justin Jefferson, and this is how I spent and saved my first $1 million.
Now, I already like this comment, right? Because I've checked out a lot of these, like, how I spent my first million videos by GQ, and the fact that Justin Jefferson included how I spent and keyword here saved my first million. I don't think I've heard anyone actually say that. So that shows pretty good signs that he's actually pretty good with his money.
I'm from St. Louis, Louisiana, small town in Louisiana. Growing up, I just wanted to be playing either football, basketball. I played every sport besides soccer, get an insight on everything, but I knew I was going to be a football player. My two other brothers went to LSU, so me going to the LSU games at a young age, like 10 years old, it was just like a home for me. It was a no-brainer to go there. I wanted to weigh my options, but LSU was my biggest offer, so it was like LSU or I'm gonna go to the smallest schools.
That's smart. Okay, that is smart. Because what you could kind of get from what he was saying from this is that pretty much he didn't necessarily care too much where he actually went as long as it was right for him, right? So LSU gave him the best offer, which meant that he took it. If they weren't going to offer him like that, like a really, really good offer, he was probably going to go one of the cheapest schools. So that's actually pretty awesome because he knew probably just how much it would actually cost to really go to school, to university.
So LSU every day. There definitely was doubts my freshman year. Am I going to be able to play on a high level? Am I going to be that high caliber receiver? So from there on, I just grind, never stop. It was the first ever draft to be held at home. So having all of my family members, all of the people that supported me my whole life to congratulate.
That's so cool. I think that might be his brother or something, but like, look at that. He's like, yeah, come on, come on, pick him. And he's just so like super eager, just like waiting on the phone. It's like, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna get drafted. That's pretty awesome.
Me and to be the first person in my family to get drafted and to be a first round draft pick at that.
First round draft pick. Oh man, he must have gotten a crazy contract then.
It was so special for everybody there, and it was just an amazing experience, and there's nothing I can take back from that. Since I got drafted, everybody was like, "Dang, you gotta go to the cold. Dang, you gotta go to the cold." Nobody ever let me forget that I was going to the cold to Minnesota. I mean, to be honest, now that I had a year under my belt, it's really not that bad. It doesn't get that cold during the season. me just being all the way in Minnesota is still love coming from my community, even though they have a lot of sex fans.
See, that's the interesting thing that I see with a lot of pro sports, right? The fans on some of these teams are nuts.
It's definitely heartwarming to come back to a community with people that love you and that are excited for what you have to come.
Okay, so Justin Jefferson's rookie contract, drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in the first round with the 22nd overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. Signed a 4-year, $13.12 million contract. Wow. Wow, that is some big money. I guess that's what you could pretty much get from a first round pick. And I like it even more so because based off how he's sounding, he's probably pretty good on his money. Even if he made like some like maybe foolish purchases, I mean, that's a really thick contract. And he received a $7.1 million signing bonus. Okay. And if I remember correctly, when you get this signing bonus, they literally like wire this money straight into your account. I believe right when you actually get drafted, like pretty soon after. So he might have been like sitting on the couch and like $7.1 million might have just been deposited straight into his bank account, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. Because you could be like, I don't know how old he was, but just think of someone being super young with $7.1 million in their bank account. That's going to be very tempting no matter who you are.
To go to from a college kid that doesn't really ask for much, don't really buy much, and then have millions of dollars in his bank account. It was crazy. What I'm
And see, this is the thing too, right? Because, for example, right, me personally, I hate spending money. But if you end up getting like a massive influx of cash, you don't know how you're really going to react to that.
so grateful for, I have family to guide me through all of that. Definitely had to go get a financial advisor
Love that. I love that he got a financial advisor.
and a lawyer. I mean, but I'm not a big money spending person, so I know how to handle my money. Being one of the top rookies in the league, you have a lot of endorsements. Just keep on rolling through the endorsements, trying to get as much money as you can off of that, so you ain't gotta ever live off the game check.
To those who end up stumbling upon this, and even if for some reason Justin Jefferson himself stumbles upon this, dude, I love how you are going about it, right? Because his game plan is to pretty much like never spend his actual game money, right? That's awesome. Like if he could go through his whole career basically doing like the Jay Leno method of quite literally never touching his salary, only touching endorsements, the amount of money that he will have, even if he never invested it, would be insane, right? We're talking easily 9 figures worth of money if he keeps playing for like the next 10 years, right?
Okay, we talked about how we made and saved my money. Now let's talk about how I spent my money. I definitely had to get a little bling bling. I'll say about 50 on jury.
$50,000 in jewelry is quite a lot of money, right? But you also gotta keep this in mind, right? We're now working on the assumption that this $1 million has nothing to do with his actual salary money, right? So, pretty much the way that you could think of this like this, because he's never touching that salary money from the NFL, is pretty much like this is all money from a side hustle, right? Practically speaking, he could basically just spend all this money because it's just from a side hustle that he's purposely doing just to make more money. That has nothing to do with his actual career. Now, you shouldn't really think of it like that, but it puts you into like a little bit different perspective in how he's going to probably be spending this amount of money because again, this doesn't really necessarily have anything to do with his salary money.
I had to get with Leo Frost in Houston. He did a lot of guys at LSU, and we just built our connection over time. We was thinking about a jet piece, like while I was in college. So when I got to the NFL, I was able to get the jet piece and pinky ring. You gotta go with the pinky ring. It's got a little index ring. Goes together perfectly. I think I'm gonna buy one more thing, and then after that, I'm not a big jewelry person. Like I'll buy jewelry. Like I like how it looks, but after a while, I'm not too big on it. I just like the main pieces. Get what I gotta get, and I'm out.
Again, like this is the crazy thing, right? Even though pretty much this $1 million that he's going to be spending has nothing to do with his salary, basically from the side hustle of endorsements, right? And he could technically just spend all of it and not really put himself at risk at all. He's still with that mindset of, no, I'm not going to spend all this money like this, right? Like, I'm not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on jewelry, right? Because he even said it. He's not that big of a spending person. And that's something to, like, really think about, right? Because another perspective to really look at this from is what can you really do with jewelry, right? Like, what's the difference between having $50,000 of jewelry or $200,000 in jewelry? Not really anything. What's the difference between $50,000 and $1,000 in jewelry? Not really anything. Like, it doesn't really serve like any purpose, really.
Jewelry, 50K. Especially living in Minnesota from Louisiana, I definitely had to grab some more jackets, grab some more nice jeans and stuff like that. So my brother is a really big fashion guy, so he definitely helped me out with some outfits and gave me some tips on what looked good and what don't look good. I have to say I spent about like 20K. I didn't shop that much growing up. Like I didn't really have like a whole bunch of clothes, a whole bunch of shoes. I just wasn't that type of kid.
Again, I really like this. I like his way of thinking because even though, like, hearing, like, oh, he spent like $20,000 on clothing, in relation to his salary, it's nothing. This money's not even from his salary, it's just from his endorsements. So again, it's really basically like nothing to him in terms of like the ratio of how much money he's actually bringing in. But also on top of that, if he didn't have his brother like kind of like suggesting him what he should or should not buy, he probably would just be kind of like wearing what he's wearing right now, which is just a hoodie and sweatpants.
I mostly play football. I mostly play sports. So as long as I got me some basketball shoes, some football cleats, some gloves, I was good to go. Clothing, 20K. As soon as I figured out I was going to be in the first round, I definitely had my eyes on the AMG Mercedes for a long time, and that was about wait, hold on, y'all gotta have to give me a second. About 150,000. I like car.
$150,000. But again, like I don't know how much he actually got from endorsements in total. But again, we're going with the assumption that this $1 million is actually from his endorsements because, based off what he said, his whole game plan is to not really ever touch the salary. So it's a lot of money, but at the same time, is it? You know?
Cars. I like fancy cars, foreign cars. I definitely have to cop the Mercedes. I had to.
I mean, that's a nice Mercedes, but the thing is, the real big problem with these brand new like Mercedes AMG cars, they drop heavy in value over the next few years. Now, the funny thing is, probably about the time that he actually got drafted and bought this car, it might have actually gone up in value because of how crazy the car market is right now. So he might have actually been able to, if he wanted to, sell this for break even or even profit a little bit, possibly.
That was a must. I got it wrapped, matte black, windows black, pretty much black out. Everybody call snow tires. Crazy fact is, I'm from Louisiana. It doesn't snow that much. I had to go outside and play in the snow. It was a must. So the first day I played in the snow, I lost my phone in the snow. Nobody expected it to snow this day. So I didn't have snow tires on my car at this time. I tried to go to the mall or go to the Apple store to buy me a new phone, but I couldn't even get out my neighborhood. I was spinning everywhere. It was crazy.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I had to the next day. Mercedes, 150,000. I bought a lot of shoes. A lot of shoes. A lot of shoes. The shoes has its own category. It's just clothes and then it's shoes. Had to get the Dior's. That was a must. I had to got like other pairs of Dior's, Balenciagas. I had some new Jordans that came out. I had got a lot of stuff actually. Best pair of shoes that I've got.
Okay, I'm just gonna like predict that he probably actually spent a good amount of money on shoes.
I'm a big Dior guy. I like Dior chucks, so I'll have to say the chucks. This is only the start. This is only the start. It's only gonna get bigger and bigger, better and better. Shoes, 10K.
Wow. Okay, I was completely wrong. For some reason, I had like the feeling he was gonna like drop like 50 or $100,000 on shoes, based off how he was like talking about the shoes. But no, that's pretty. I mean, okay, it's a lot for the average person, but in terms of like how much money he's actually bringing in, it's really not that bad.
Christmas, probably total of probably like 10. My family don't ask for a lot. I got
That's good though, because he probably wanted to like give back to his family a little bit, and the fact that his family isn't asking him for money, that's pretty cool.
my mom, my purse, clothes, shoes, jerseys, tickets. Actually, my brothers didn't really ask for much. That was crazy. Me getting drafted, me having the season that I had was pretty much everybody's Christmas. And then we played the Saints on Christmas Day. Everybody was more into that more than just, the tradition of Christmas. It was in New Orleans, so everybody stayed in Louisiana. Everybody was in the dome Christmas Day. First Christmas with the family, 10K.
I gotta say this again, but like the family around him is amazing, right? For those that end up stumbling upon this kind of really goes to show you how important it is to have a very supportive family, right? Because there's a lot of people in a completely, well, in pretty much the same like scenario, but with a different family dynamic, and it could basically be the end of them almost, right?
I got a townhouse in Minnesota. Y'all gotta give me a minute on this one. Well, that leads me back to having supportive parents that knows a lot, walking me through everything, whether I should rent a place or if I should buy a place. I also have a dog too, so condo would have been too small for my dog. They thought it was going to be a great idea if I bought a place instead of renting one. So we bought like a place like 4 minutes from the facility, so it was definitely easy to get around in the snow and everything during the season. First Minnesota house, 405,000.
Okay, that's actually not that bad of a price for like a house. But not only that, the fact that it's close to his actual work is actually good. That alone would actually help him save money, and would also help him like stay on track with actually trying to improve in the NFL. Because I mean, what excuse does he have if he literally lives like 4 minutes away?
My mom is the person for all of that. She loves doing all of that interior designing, loves decorating the house. She definitely did all of that. So that would probably be like another for like 20K. Interior design for the
I mean, $20,000 to design a $405,000 house is kind of steep, but reality, this is probably also just something to like help out the mom too.
House, 20K. This is everything, man. This is everything. I did pretty good, didn't I? I saved about half of my money, so hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. The rest of my first million went to savings. I told you I'm good with.
That's that's pretty good. Because again, this is the thing. Like, I don't think I've seen anyone on this before where they specifically actually saved money. They just literally spent their first whole $1 million, right? So I love how Justin Jefferson like basically managed his money. And again, we're also kind of like working under the assumption that a lot of this money that was spent was actually mainly from endorsements. Now he might have like spent this money basically as soon as he knew that he was, getting drafted, when he got actually drafted, right? Because he knew this money existed in his account, but he probably didn't really actually like fully spend the money. Like he was probably planning on spending the money once he found out he got drafted, but the endorsements either quickly covered the expenses or he didn't actually spend the money yet until he actually got paid from the endorsements. So, yeah, pretty amazing though.
The money, man. I'm good with the money. We was locked up in the house all day, every day. Can't go anywhere. Can't go to, any, clubs, bars, or anything. So it's pretty cool just being at home and just chilling at home. I mean, I'm definitely planning on buying like my own custom house like later on in my career. That's definitely a dream of mine. Something that I'll be taking this and putting that towards. I've actually been spending my off season in Miami. There's a lot of teammates, a lot of guys, top guys in the league that are here that I work with and pick the brain from. So bring my game to the next level and trying to get all the information and trying to get all of the info that I need to go into next season. I train with Mo Wells.
Okay, I think that's pretty awesome because even now, even though he got drafted as a first draft pick and got a very thick contract and is getting crazy amounts of endorsements, he's still trying to improve his career.
At Brandon Marshall's House of Athletes. Also, a lot of guys in the league, so we definitely get that grind in together and we go to work all season with training, condo, rental cars. Probably like 20, probably like 20. Okay, y'all can reach us. How much went into saves? I had to take 20 out. Okay, don't don't bash me out.
Well, I mean, still $20,000 for off-season training specifically kind of stuff, right? Everything relating to that. Honestly, I don't even think that's really that bad because it's specifically to help him perform better in his career to help him actually make more money. So that's basically like he's reinvesting into himself by doing that sort of stuff.
Just took 20. Just 20. I mean, I know a lot of guys say be smart with your money and everything, but I mean, there's more than life than just spending money on clothes, shoes, cars, big old houses. So manage your money. Football is not always going to be there for the rest of your life. So learn how to take care of your money, put it towards good causes, and I mean, learn how to build upon your money. So uh, you know, we don't want to go broke, so gotta keep the bread. I want to go a lot of places. Probably next
I think that's pretty awesome.
off season, I'm gonna really start traveling. I haven't even been anywhere out the world, like out the country yet. I definitely want to go to a lot of places. Definitely want to go to Bora Bora. Bora Bora is like one of my dream vacation spots that I want to go to. I definitely gotta go to France, London, Greece, Spain. It's a lot, man. It's a lot. I got some journeys to go on, man. I got.
So yeah, good luck on your journeys, Justin Jefferson. I think this is a pretty amazing thing. And like his comment about, hey, football is not going to be here forever for all these guys. And that's a fact. A lot of these guys are actually going to have extremely short careers due to injuries, due to them getting in trouble with the law, due to them maybe just not playing well, and then no one wanting to sign them on their contract. Maybe they end up getting overweight because in the off season they just start, eating like pizzas every single day without really working out because some NFL guys actually do that, where they are literally like lazy in their off season. So I think his words in this video is pretty amazing and pretty spot on as to really how other NFL players should think about their money, right? And it reminds me of like this one interview where this former pro NFL player like basically told like this interviewee, right? Well, the person actually hosting the interview, basically saying like, "Hey, I wear fake diamond jewelry, fake Rolexes, fake necklaces, all that kind of stuff, right? Because no one can tell the difference, and why would I spend my money on these useless items, right? When I could spend like $10 and literally look the exact same, right?" Like it was something like pretty crazy because the reason why that guy ended up doing that is he saw so many other pro athletes literally go bankrupt because they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on earrings, millions of dollars on cars, millions of dollars on like houses, divorces, child support, and he was like, "Hey, like yeah, I still want that look of like wearing expensive stuff, but I don't want to spend my money on these expensive stuff." So he just got like fake diamond earrings, fake Rolexes, and like fake like gold jewelry, only costing him like a couple $100, maybe $1,000 for everything, and it looks exactly the same, right? So I thought that was kind of funny, but feel free to give your thoughts. I think Justin Jefferson, how he spent his first $1 million is pretty amazing. By the way, if you want to learn how to get out of debt, go to 40inbox.com.